Still good morning. So I'm between you and lunch, right? No? Okay, not so bad then. Just quick check, who's here already VMware partners today? No, none of you is VMware partners? Okay, interesting crowd. Right, so the goal for today's session is really to share what's next. I hope at least all of you are familiar with who is VMware, what VMware have been delivering for the past 20 years in the industry, right? And why have we become the leaders of a hybrid cloud enabler? But if today you want to go into this business, the question is, wouldn't there be already a lot of partners, you know, everybody knows about cloud and virtualizations. What is next from a partner perspective in terms of opportunities? And the great thing about today's sharing is I'm going to share with you 3 things that is going to be even bigger in terms of IT opportunity as compared to what we have for the past 20 years, right? And that is what we call it the next generation partner business, and trying to amplify that opportunity from the cloud that you know all the way to the edge. Now, what does it mean? And where do we start? Okay? So first of all, for those who are not very familiar with VMware, these are our history of our timeline. Okay? So VMware started as a hypervisor or server virtualizations, as most of you have known it, right? Then we have moved into a proper virtual infrastructures, extending that virtualizations to storage, to network, right? Able to deliver things like high availabilities, disaster recoveries, a proper data center solutions. And now, in the current times, version 3 is what we call software-defined data centers, which means we can now deliver the same capabilities via software on demand in every single stack of the data centers, not just server anymore, right? We have software-defined storage. We have network virtualizations. We have software-defined WAN, wide area network, for example, right? We have software-defined security. So the whole data center now become very agile. That is where we are today. And that is why VMware is the primary enablers of a hybrid cloud. But what's next is version 4 of what we call project dimension, okay? Which means, how can I now bring this software-defined data center to any environment, big or small, right, that is connected to the cloud? So we want to deliver data center as a service. That is the next step of the evolutions. So data center is no longer have to be big bang, right? It doesn't have to be multi-million dollars investment, multiple of racks, no, right? You want to take the capabilities, the abilities, and deliver it on demand as a service, okay? From the core data centers all the way to the edge, the remote office, right? This room, for example, that's the goal. How do we do that? So the key is because today, VMware is already the largest cloud provider network. Not AWS, not Azure, it is actually VMware. Because why? VMware today enabled 4,000 service providers in the world. 4,000 plus, right? We hosted more workloads easily as compared to the mega cloud players. And not only that, today, our partners like AWS, right? Some of you may have heard the announcement, is start to adopt as well VMware on AWS. And they will even make our footprint even bigger, right? We are truly the largest hybrid cloud provider in the world, easily. Now, with this network of capability, what can we do next? Which means, partner like you, your customers, will always have a connections to the cloud that is already running VMware in any country in the world. You name it, we have it. So with this network already in place, what we can do now is, what if now I can extend that software-defined data center as a service all the way to the edge, right? So some of you may be familiar with terms IoT, Internet of Things, okay? So today IoT is predominantly devices, correct? Your smartwatch, your smartphone, your smart refrigerators, your smart TV. But moving forward, IoT is also going to be used by the corporate customers, manufacturing, healthcare, telco, government, right? Basically, any device that is a smart device and connected to the internet or any network will become an IoT device. And it's all about the data. It's all about automation. It's all about control. And because you have data, you need data center, right? And that is where the key is, I can't able to bring all these devices all the way to the core. No, you have to be at the edge, closer to the devices. And that is where what we call distributed data center is all about. Bringing the data center closer to the devices at the edge, closer to us, the user. And that is where the big growth is. We are expecting in the next 3 to 5 years, we have a net growth of 50 billion connected devices. 50 billion. Just to put a context today, the human in the world is only about close to 7 billion. The entire population of the world. We are expecting in the next 3 to 5 years, because of the growth of the IoT concept, right, where every single sensor is connected and able to be monitored and controlled, there'll be additional 50 billion devices connected to the network. Okay? So these connections will drive opportunities. These connections will drive solutions requirement. These connections will drive your data center solution at the back end. Bigger than any service amount you have ever sold for the past 50 years, add up together. That is where the biggest growth is in the next 10 years. Okay? But where do VMware play in this space, right? What are we enabling here? And how do partners like you can be part of the success moving forward? This, if you've been selling storage, some of you may be Dell EMC partners, HP partners, right? You've been selling their storage platform. Look at this. In the next 8 years, we are expecting a net new growth of 45 zettabytes. Now, for those who doesn't know what a zettabyte is, feel free to Google it and see how many zeros at the back of it, right? This is a net new growth for the storage opportunity alone. Just storage, just to store all those data from the 50 billion devices in the next 8 years. Which means if you're just selling storage for the next 8 years, you won't go hungry, right? But remember, if you're only selling the back end, your value is lesser than the front end people. That's why you want to do end-to-end. So we know this will drive the back end opportunity greatly. But the case you want to know, right? Why does all this thing happening? Why are we seeing another 45 zettabytes of data being created in the next 8 years? Right? It's all about digital transformations. It's all about digital business. It's all about digital economy. Right? Today, more and more, all of us are cashless. Agree? And the shift is very quick. For example, all this, you're changing paper money into data. For example. Right? Less and less of us now hailing taxi on the road. Right? Again, we're moving that concept into backend, into data. But there must be a front end, right? The enabler that allows users like us consume the services. And that is where VMware plays. That is where VMware enabled all those corporate customers. So where do we play? In every single industries. So even today, right, we are in the early stage of the adoptions. VMware has already mapped out exactly which industries, what's the value, and what is the actual use cases. So today, if you decided to be part of this partnership with VMware, we are actually ready. We have done this internally at the global level. We have started reaching out to our strategic customers, right? I can tell you, all the big customers, even in Thailand, the big consortium, they already have a project somewhere internally looking into this, right? You may not be aware of this because why? It's still on the R&D phase. And typically in the R&D phase, they don't call infrastructure people. We are the last one to know, right? They will call developers, right? They will call network researchers, for example. They they will call security expert. They won't call people who are selling server and storage now, not at this stage. But what you want is you want to move yourself up the value chain and tell them, hey, you know what? We understand where you want to go. We understand your use cases, and that is why we want to be there from day one. And how do you do that with VMware? What can VMware offer here in this particular scenario? Right? This is the stack. Okay? So going back to that software-defined data centers, our strategy is number one, at the bottom, right? It's all about managing all the device that is connected to the internet. This means all smart device that is connected, VMware want to be there. Okay? For example, in Singapore, right? Singapore Airlines, all the device used by the pilot and the stewardess are managed by VMware. The actual device, right? We don't talk about backend data center anymore. The actual device. All the smart mobile devices by the government of Singapore, the Prime Minister, is managed by VMware. So we do play at the front-end devices, FYI, in case you're not familiar with what VMware is doing today, right? Once we're able to do that, right, the devices need to connect back to the data center, the backend. Today, we have what we call SD-WAN, software-defined WAN network. Why? Because traditional networking is very static. It's very expensive. It is not scalable on demand. How do you solve the problem? You virtualize, make it software-enabled. Right? 2 years ago, SD-WAN is only 3% adoption in the market worldwide. We expect 3 years from now, 60% of corporate customers will be having SD-WAN in their environment. SD-WAN to us is the next vSphere. Right? If you like to sell license together with your server, you need to play in this space. Because why? Everything will be connected, right? Everything will be WAN connected. Makes a lot of sense. But there is something in between there, between the connection and the device. That is what we call the micro data center. Right? Remember, we can't be pushing the data all the way to the corporate data center. Too many devices, and it's too slow. You want to make instant decision. For example, in Singapore, if you've been to Singapore, you see all those green trash can, right? Singapore is a trash can country. You walk 100 meters, you see another trash can, right? That's why you cannot litter, right? But the police will say, there's another trash can over there. IoT example, now they want to monitor the trash can. They want to know, when will the trash can be full? When should I send the trash truck to pick up the trash ahead of time? I want to do big data analysis of the trash can around Singapore. Now, if I want to push every trash can data into the corporate data center, there are hundreds of thousands of them, right? You can't scale. So what you do is you bring the brain, the data center, closer to the trash can. So we can say every 1,000 trash can, one brain, one big data, right? Which means one data center. You install all the software, all the application inside that. And that's what we call micro data center. Today, vSphere is in the beta version of running on the ARM processor. ARM processor running vSphere, right? Our goal is you can run a data center at the palm of your hand. Small stack of those white boxes, running ARM, running a proper vSphere data center solution, right? The same software that is being used by all the corporate enterprises in the world, in your hand. And that's what we call micro data centers. And that connects everything from the front end all the way to the back end. And that is where the portfolio is. IoT, Workspace ONE to control all the front end devices, our mobile phone, our smartwatches, right? Our rigid devices, POS system, you name it. If there's an OS, you can connect to the internet, we want to be there, right? Connecting to the internet, you have Velo Cloud, the SD-WAN. Right? So we're telling the customers, now you can scale out on demand for your WAN connectivity. No longer need to replace your big legacy router anymore. Those are the things of the past. It's too expensive, too rigid, too static. And if you want to be proactive, you want to have a digital economy, you want to do big data, you can now deploy what we call fractal or micro data centers in between. So even in this room, I can mount a small data centers on the wall if I want to. Right? Running on ARM processor. And that is where the growth is. That is where the 50 billion devices, that is where the 45 zettabytes of opportunity will come in. Now, most of you sell storage, right? You know per dollar gigabyte today. Just do the math. For 45 zettabyte, for maybe a 16 cents of per gigabyte, tell me how big is the opportunity for the next 8 years. That is how big this opportunity is. And that is only the back-end storage. We haven't talked about the cost of the 50 billion devices. Okay? So how do I deliver this as a service? And that is where the back-end cloud network will come in, right? We can now tell the customers, hey, you just buy a very small form factor devices running on ARM processor, mount it anywhere that you want, connect to the network powered by VMware, and we will push down the so-called software-defined data center as a service to you. So it's like downloading a new application on your phone. That is the vision of the next generation of data center, right? Buy the device, connect to the network, download it, and you'll be up and running. And the entire control plane is delivered as a service. Nothing for them to deploy, right? Nothing for them to install for weeks or even months. Everything is running at the back end. And the first version, it will be running on AWS, which today is our partners, right? No longer a competition. And that is why we are the largest hybrid cloud network in the world today with this capability. All right? And the good thing is, being VMware, because software-defined is basically on-demand, very agile, depending on the needs, you can even adopt partial, depending on the capabilities, right? I can say, I want to do end-to-end. Software-defined data centers, micro data centers, SD-WAN, workspace one. Great. The first one, you deploy everything. But maybe today customers say, I'm not ready yet, right? I don't want to do big data at the moment. Fine, you just do the really back end and the really front end, nothing in between. So the good thing as a partner as well, that is why you can go to any customer environment in any maturity model and will always be able to align and map what you can deliver for them in terms of the solution, right? No longer like a typical hardware selling. It's not all or nothing. It is highly flexible, okay? Which means we are able to adapt to any business use cases you can think of, all right? That's the first one, right? The first strategy that is going to fit all of us in the IT industry for the next 20 years, easily, just with these one use cases. Because why? 50 billion new devices, 45 zettabytes new amount of data. Think about all the servers you can sell. Think about all the networking you will sell, right? But you need to elevate yourself as a partner and be there in the conversation. And today, VMware is in that position to help you. Okay? Now, once we have that, what's next? Now we want to talk about use cases, right? Once we have all this network, once we have all these connected devices, what else can I help the customer to deliver that digital business and digital economy? And that's come to our second strategy, the data platform itself, right? What can I do with that? Blockchain. Now, most of you know Bitcoin. Some of you may play in Bitcoin. I hope you all sold out last year, right? If I do this last year, everybody make money. If I do this year, everybody lose money, depending on where you are. But people understand the attraction of blockchain. Because why? Blockchain, if it can deliver the promise, it'll be an unhackable network, if you think about it, right? Today, if you sell a database, as a hacker, I just need to hack one database. Agree? Once I'm there, I'm there. In the blockchain, because it's a trust network, I need to hack 51% of the network just to change one block. So the bigger the blockchain is, actually the more secure you are, right? But today, blockchain is only for commercial use case, right? Vanity, Bitcoin, Ethereum, you name it. Not many enterprises is able to do blockchain as a business yet. And that is where we want to change that. We want to be the first one who truly delivered an enterprise blockchain, mass scale. And we can do this today, right? How and why? Why do I want to do this? Again, span, right? This is the span of blockchain in the next 3 to 5 years. If you see the network and the server spend, it will be almost flat. It's growing, single digit. Blockchain, in this region alone, this year, customers are going to spend additional 1 billion. 1 billion, just for R&D. Remember, right? Today, blockchain is not yet enterprise ready. But because of the promise of blockchain, customer is going to pump money into it. Because why? The first one who's able to do blockchain as an enterprise business, they will own the industry. Trust me, 3 to 5 years from now, there will be 1 or 2 big consortium owning a major blockchain, even in Thailand. Right? It's a race now to that promised land. And that is why, even on the R&D perspective, customer is spending money exponentially on the promise of blockchain. Right? Why are we all doing this? Right? Why are they so interested in doing enterprise blockchain? Number one, you are able to do almost instant data sharing for enterprise. Right? Why is this important? For example, in the US, right? It's a big country, a lot of towns, a lot of cities. If there is an outbreak, a disease outbreak, right? The CDC in the US, which is the Center of Disease Control, in order for them to ensure that they can send the data and the warning out without people changing the information, you know what they do today? They send physical fax. They use fax machine, right? Because if they send email, people can hack it, right? People change the information, for example. If I send WhatsApp, people can do fake news, for example. So the best way is give me a phone number, I'll send you a fax, a physical paper, right? Because today physical paper is unhackable, but it's very slow. So for a most critical disease in the US today, it will take 48 hours to disseminate across the entire country. 48 hours. Life and death situations, 48 hours. In the blockchain promise, if every single state and cities have a blockchain node, and everyone is one big giant network, you just need one person to change the block, and people agree the block needs to be changed, you're able to disseminate the same data almost instantly, right? And in life and death manner, 48 hours versus a few seconds make a big difference, right? Because this is spread very quickly. Okay? Think about money transfer today, right? Now, some banks in the world able to do instant money transfer because why? They create their own small network, right? But if you want to do money transfer across the countries, how long will it take? Days. Today, even today, right? Days. Why? Because it's multiple different networks, they need to ensure the transaction is not hacked. Very slow. They have SWIFT number, routing number, all these things. Think about the potential. If today, the entire world is connected into one single financial blockchain, you can transfer your money here to Uganda or whatever you want in seconds. And it's not hackable. Because remember, the bigger the chain is, the bigger the network is, the more difficult for someone to change even a single information. That's the promise of blockchain. And that is why everybody is racing towards that promised land. Second one, tracking. Right? Now, in this region, especially in Southeast Asia, we're all big in e-commerce, right? Everyone buys things online nowadays. Agree? But think about the way you track your purchase. Again, you can track it, but the moment it's a different provider, different system, right? You have tracking numbers. But you cannot track end-to-end. The promise of blockchain is this. If today you want to buy a tomato, just for fun, right? You just want to buy one tomato. The idea of blockchain is, what if I can track from the time the tomato is being planted, harvested, shipped to the market, sent by the courier all the way to your house, end-to-end, pure feasibility. Which also means, if today I'm the farmer, I know exactly the upfront requests of my tomato business. Right? Again, that feasibility of tracking and, again, the security of it in logistics, right? In farming, in manufacturing. The benefit is, you can't even quantify the benefit anymore compared to what we are doing today. That is the promise of blockchain. Asset transfer, like I mentioned, right? Simply moving from one component to another, typically like bank transfer. And the last one, certified claims. How do I know what you tell me is true? Right? If I'm telling you 1 + 1 is equals to 2, how do I know it's true? Because in the blockchain, I know it is not possible for you to change the chain. Right? So in the idea of supply chain, right, things like Tesco, for example, things like Walmart, they will use all four. And all these four use cases is disruptive, it's groundbreaking, right? But the challenge now, blockchain as it is not ready. Why? It is too slow, right? Today, Bitcoin is what we call proof of work. You need to mine a block first, right? So mining takes time. Ethereum is what we call proof of stake. You need to prove that you're part of the network. Faster, but it's still minutes to hours. What VMware today is doing, we delivered what we call BFT, right? A true enterprise blockchain, which is open source anyway, it's free. Customer can just download it. They can start to develop solution on top of it. Then we can bring all these minutes and days into sub-second, right? So it's truly enterprise ready. But how to deliver these sub-second capabilities? So during the VM World, we do a demo. We download the entire Ethereum worldwide global contract, right, worth 2 months. We run it in our enterprise WAN blockchain across the globe. We move from 2 months into 2.5 hours. Think about it, that's the difference, right? A 2 months public contract by Ethereum, we can run it in our enterprise blockchain only in under 2.5 hours. That is to prove that we are truly enterprise ready. Okay? So what are we selling here? Now, the blockchain itself, the one on the most bottom, for those who can see at the back, the most bottom green part, it is actually open source, right? VMware develop it, we give it for free. Because why? Everyone today is in R&D stage. But in order to do this at scale, you need hybrid cloud, you need networking, you need security, you need performance optimizations. And that is where the rest of the VMware strategy and portfolio will come in to support this opportunity, right? So from a partner perspective, what you are selling here is the use case. If you're already able to do VMware as a solution, it's the same solution, right? But in a highly different use cases. And of course, on top of it, you have the new blockchain platform, which is given out to the community as an open source, free. So we are still selling the infrastructure component. Make sense? Right? Now, we have talked about the platform, right? The edge. We talk about the data, the use cases. Now we talk about the actual core. How to actually do this today? How do customers actually start a project, right? And this topic, I assume most of you have heard about this, most of you are even familiar about this. It's all about microservices, right? It's all about containers. That is how, moving forward, all applications will be built, including the blockchain, including the IoT. And guess what? Today, VMware also, we are playing in this space as well. And we're actually one of the largest provider of microservices, right? Why microservices? Very simple. It's a new type of applications that you can scale up and scale out on demand. Fundamentally, that's it, right? You can start as small as 1 instance. You can scale to 1 million instance in the next few seconds and scale back down into 1 instance. You can't do that with traditional applications. That's why people like Grab, people like Amazon, people like Google Search, they're all running based on microservices. Because why? The demand from the market is highly fluctuative, right? And moving forward, 10 years from now, 50% of enterprise applications will be built, not buy, right? We start to see a lot of trend here as well. A lot of customers start to have developer teams. Because why? Their needs for applications become so custom. They cannot go to SAP, they cannot go to Salesforce and say, please customize this for me. Too expensive. And they cannot change the code of the applications. So what they do is, most big enterprise customers, they will start to develop their own. And we expect 5 to 10 years from now, more than half of enterprise applications will be built by the customer, right? DevOps as a culture have become mainstream, especially in Thailand, especially in Thailand. Again, why you want to do this? Again, the exponential growth of the opportunity. We expect there will be 1.5 billion workload going to be created in 3 years' time. 1.5 billion new workload will be created in 3 years' time based on microservices, based on containers, right? We expect 10 years from now, there'll be more containers than virtual machines in the world. As simple as that. So this is the net new growth for all of us that is selling infrastructures. Okay? How do you do this? Very simple. Why container? Because you decouple the services from the OS. That's why customer can scale up and scale out without impacting the installation, right? I no longer need to install. I just deploy the application and run it. It can be for 1 second. It can be for 10 milliseconds. Destroy it. That's it. Right? A new form of approach altogether. But where does VMware play? Right? How do we help customer adopting microservices? How to capture that 1.5 billion workload opportunities? Okay? These are the value of containers. Right? 5 times faster, 86 times deployment speed. But the enabler is this. Kubernetes from Google. Right? So if you've been doing some DevOps, you heard about Kubernetes for sure. You heard about Dockers. So what happened is, 2 years ago, VMware, Google, and Pivotal, 3 companies, we created a product together, right? Based on Kubernetes, which is what we call PKS, right? Pivotal Kubernetes Services, or Pivotal Container Services. Why Kubernetes? Because today Kubernetes almost owns 90% of the market share. That's it. It's a done deal, right? The war for which container management is done. It will be Kubernetes moving forward. So based on Kubernetes, VMware have developed PKS, right? So basically what is PKS? PKS is allowing customer to deploy microservices in an enterprise-grade environment. Same like blockchain, right? It's all about enterprise-ready. What does enterprise-ready mean? It's highly secure, right? It's software-defined. It is agile. It is as a service. It is on demand. Those are enterprise-ready. And those stacks you see on the right-hand side, all the green one, that is where VMware complement Kubernetes. Okay? So Kubernetes alone is only 1 stack out of 10. You need all the other stack to be enterprise-ready. Right? So what are we solving? Things like HA, auto-scaling, auto-health check, lifecycle management. Things that we have been selling for traditional infrastructures, right? Because those are enterprise requirements. Okay? And the one in the yellow box, that is PKS. That is what we're actually selling today. Right? So PKS, we are selling it now, today. Because why? Customers are already starting their R&D on container, on microservices. So the journey has already started. So today, if all of you have been selling server and storage, ask the customer, what is the workload? You can sell up the stack. Right? It's a big drag today from the customer to demand all this requirement. Okay? So I'll give you an example. Our value is what we call infrastructure as a code. So as we build the PKS solution, right? Once we build that data center with PKS ready, when we give it to the developer, they can consume infrastructure like a code. What does it mean? When they code the applications, they can say, hey, if my application requires this amount of resources, it will call the infrastructure and deploy the infrastructure on demand, right? No longer manual. I no longer install OSs. I no longer install networking and storage. No. Everything is called up by the developers. And when the applicants say, hey, I need to scale beyond the initial requirement, again, they code it. It will just auto-heal. It will just scale. And that's what we call infrastructure as a code. You are giving a software-defined component, give it back to the developer so they can consume this as a service directly from the application. Which also means we can now make these applications a much more robust applications, right? Enterprise ready. If I want to scale, I will just say resize. It will scale my cluster on demand. Okay? And that's what it means to digital business, digital economy. A true agility controlled by the application natively. Okay? So the good thing is when you sell PKS, you are addressing the infrastructure pain point, right? The IT owners, and also you're addressing the developer pain points, the application owners. And that is what makes PKS very, very interesting, right, for customer to adopt it today. Because we solve the entire stack end-to-end, right? So what's the value? Very simple. From microservices, enterprise grade, production ready, and it is comprehensive across the stack. Server, storage, network, security, and availability. All right? What are the use cases? Today is everything. New applications. Customer may even sometimes modernize existing applications. They will recode the applications into microservices. Right? We have customers who recode Oracle databases into Cassandra databases, so they can scale up and down on demand. Right? And remember, 10 years from now, we expect 50% or more applications will be built by the customer themselves. The trend has started. And in Southeast Asia, the three largest DevOps market is Thailand, Indonesia, and Singapore. Right? So you guys need to go out there and ask your customer, when you buy all these new infrastructures, what are the workload? Chances are today, 5 to 10% will be already on container. Will be already on microservices. Okay? Questions? Am I supposed to ask questions because I have a giveaway? No questions? Okay, as usual, it's okay. Most events very quiet. So let me ask the questions, right? They even keep the price tag. I don't know why. This lucky draw? Oh, lucky draw. Oh, not asking questions. Okay, sorry, my bad. So lucky draw. Good luck. So if there's no questions, I just want to recap very quickly. Our three solutions, it is really groundbreaking. It's going to boost our industry for the next 20 years. So if you've been doing traditional infrastructure solutions, I will highly recommend you to read more, to learn more, right? And reach out to us, right? Have that partnership in mind. Okay? Thank you very much.